here's another experience I had. This wasn't a dream. It was in fact an inadvertent out-of-body experience I had the other day. I used to do out-of-body or astral projection travelling before I came across the new presentation. Then I would learn through the new presentation the risks of astral projection, the fact that you can get holes in the aura and you can have your cord potentially severed, and maybe even bring entities back through portals that you create via the process. So, even though I don't seek to have such experiences, sometimes they just occur. And here was an example of one. And so, there I was outside of my body, and I drift down the stairs and into the street. This is generally how an out-of-body experience, if I have one, will begin. And I usually test it to see if it's an actual out-of-body experience, as it seems very real. And the means by which I test it is I will press my hand through the floor, and if I can do that, then I know that I'm outside the body. So anyway, I go outside, and then what tends to happen next is I find myself catapulted to all manner of strange places, and it's pretty random. On this occasion, for some obscure reason, I suddenly found myself in the form of a reptilian. And I found that when I do go astral projecting, I can in fact change into whatever form I like. But on this occasion, I didn't intentionally choose to change into anything, and indeed certainly not a reptilian. But I thought, well, fair enough, whatever, I went along with it. And strangely though, while in this form, I seemed to have access to, it almost seemed like a series of books that seems to be a standard for the reptilians. It was a little like maybe the reptilians' version of a religion, or some sort of perhaps texts or holy book works that they have for their species. It was a little, I got the sense it was almost like propaganda. It also seemed to contain information about the Callum god, and the feeling that I had generally was that it wasn't particularly awareness-inducing, more suppressive. So definitely along more the lines of religion or restriction, a sort of type read. And I carried on maintaining this reptoid form. And as I say, the books were not physical, they were just sort of there, which was a little peculiar. I then encountered a few people that I know, and they seemed to be aware of this literature too, and they recognised me despite my guise. So at that moment, I decided to share the new presentation with them, and I manifested new books, numbers 1 to 9, in my hands, and I gave it to them to read. And then I would ping back into my body and was back on the physical. So, as I say, I wouldn't say that out-of-body experiences or astral projections are advised, and certainly are not as insightful as what can be experienced and demonstrated through dreams and awareness, but you can still get some interesting stuff. And as I say, the involuntary changing into reptilian was odd, but it seems that while in that form I had access to these books of information, and I was wondering if all reptilians do, that it's maybe innate knowledge that's maybe programmed into the very vehicles, into the very reptilian vehicles, or maybe it's information constantly and telepathically broadcasted among the species, as they do seem to operate as a hive mind. This information must stem at least from the astral, as that was the minimum level I could have been at, having left the physical body. So it's like possibly reptilian brainwashing without the TV, telepathic hive mind stuff.
Okay, wow, that's a movie, isn't it, Kevin? That was good. You should write that down and share that. That's very good. That's your little adventure, and yes, many people, I've met many people that used to, and I used to do it too, astral projection, but it's not necessary. But in this experience, Yeah, we call it out of the body, but really in this experience, it's evident that it was prompted by your real awareness and not projecting one of the bodies. So it's, it's like your awareness and the mind seem the same, and it seems as though when you have this experience, it seems like the same as astral projection. But no, as you look behind you, if it's your real awareness, you don't have a silver cord. You're not projecting one of the bodies. And so again, astral projection is a very valid experience. It's very easy, but the boys usually stop that right away. So it's utilizing your real awareness. So I see that in this experience, it was the real you. And of course, the personal you is wondering what's going on, because the personal you is still part of that experience. So this is where you're wondering, well, why did I turn to reptilian? Well, you could have done it with your real awareness, or one of the boys did it for you. In other words, it's a vehicle so that you can better interpret things, etc., as you stand inside that vehicle. So it's like a car. You can be in an old car, but you can be in a brand new one with all the GPS and all the stuff. See, now all of a sudden you've got all this gadgetry. And so for you to relate and to have this experience and to see how the reptilians see and to understand what they're presenting, it's very similar to what's going on here, because it's all control. And again, the verification of the Kalam God, etc. So no, that's a very good experience. So the boys are giving you that experience to see that. And as you go along there, all of a sudden, and what's cool is you share the new presentation, and voila, the books appear. So yeah, again, that's with your real awareness. And there is a focus there also. And it demonstrates that by the very fact of what you're doing. So that's your real focus. And at times we have experiences, or we're taken through experiences like that to go a step at a time. Also, to have a comparison. That becomes the difference. So now you have this view seeing how the reptilians see, and you have your personal view. So, you're given all these different viewpoints so that you can compare and eventually, recognize everything about yourself and the real universes. So no, that was excellent.
Okay, yeah, it was certainly something a bit different anyway. Right, and I have a question. It was along the lines of someone that I know. Well, everyone knows somebody who has someone with autism, but this particular autistic child is completely out of control, and you could equate him to almost being like a feral animal. And the thing is, his condition is such that he doesn't recognise his behaviour as bad. So my question would be, if someone has a condition that makes it impossible for them to differentiate between social and antisocial behaviour, then are they a subject to the same cause and effect karma as people who can? For example, were someone to kill another individual, cause and effect karma would be exacted. But what if the murderer genuinely could not discern killing as a bad thing to do, like a sociopath? Or some species are said to have the trait of empathy removed, which makes it impossible for them to put themselves in the shoes of those they harm, as empathy acts as a behaviour moderator. And without it, there will be no limit to what an individual will be capable of, with no emotional comeback or guilt whatsoever. So is cause and effect a set-in-stone automatic process, or does Yiz take such factors into consideration?
Well, you can see it happening every day, and yes, it's it's not about good or bad, right or wrong. Those are the definitions we use. It's everything is cause and effect. So whatever the individual is experiencing, it's like scientists that do tests. And so, like they created the H-bomb, and, their meaning was, we just want to, we want it for defense reasons and, to blow up the bad people. Well, that's a cute idea, isn't it? But at the same time, when they first started doing the testings, one of them was on Paradise Island, and they evacuated all the wonderful natives there and blew up their island. Okay. And I guess according to them in their mind, gee, that's all okay because, we're just testing here and it's a good thing. And at the same time, I saw films on this. It was in the 50s, 40s, and 50s, and whatever. That the people, the Navy and the sailors and whatever, and the military that were all around that a few miles away, it was no big deal. Well, all of a sudden they become affected by that reality too. So yes, you can think whatever you want. That's just an extreme example. And let's say this is the individual's karma to get autism because they did something in the past. Let's just say it's that. So what they're experiencing now is the effects of their causes, and at the same time, while they're experiencing that, they're creating new causes unconsciously. So this is where things get really scrambled, and this is where it really makes sense to get focused as soon as you can, because it's all cause and effect. No matter how you judge it in your mind, there's a shortcut through cause and effect, but you have to earn that awareness to recognize it so that you can bypass it. So again, as people go out there in the world, good, bad, or indifferent, they're still creating cause and effect because this is how creation is. It's automatic, just like the magnetism on the world. It's all set, it's all automatic because this is how it is. It doesn't differentiate, and it's not about good or bad, it's just what it is. And cause and effect is the same thing. So this is where, as people start to do and get involved in funny things, this is where Paul recommended in the past to stay away from the psychic paths, the different things that dealt with psychic phenomena and all this, because again, they lead to something else. They always do. And the psychic sciences and whatever that look good, the mind sciences and all that seem to look good, or where people are just chanting and focusing on money and things like this because this is how it is. It's a controlled system. Well, fine, you can do whatever you want. You have free will. But it's just suggested to, what Paul was presenting at the time and what is being presented here, to focus on the isness, then you'll surpass all the cause and effect. Otherwise, yes, you'll be constantly dealing with it. And these people, again, it's like people that take drugs or whatever, they don't have to, but all of a sudden they take a drug and it changes their whole life. And all of a sudden they can't handle themselves anymore. Well, they're the effect of what they decided. Now they have to deal with it and whatever comes from that, you see. And we're all being seduced and drugged here. I see it very heavily. The Wi-Fi that we're getting, I see it here, and especially on the real side, it is really bad. We are being so friggin' bombarded here, and you're seeing it too in the distortions, etc., and seeing it more and more. And to recognize all that distortion is a lot, and it's all cause and effect. They have to deal with it too. They're creating their own nightmare, but at the same time, as others agree, they're in the nightmare too. This is these many things, this phenomena, especially like virtual reality. When you put on those things, oh yeah, you might be flying through the clouds or whatever you're doing, or what have you, but at the same time, they're giving you subliminals. They're controlling you, and you're in a cyberspace world that they've created. So it's all about control. But yet they are at their own mercy. They're the slaves of the system too, because they've created this cause that has nothing to do with the true reality. So again, I suggest that, with what is going on, that you get focused right away and learn to recognize the real you as opposed from the five bodies. And best of all, the isness life is in the real universes. So the cause and effect, and you're seeing it, and these people have a lot to go through. If you want a real interesting experience, go to the real side and look at all the people that went through Fukushima when that wave came, and in one split second they were gone. Well, they're really screwed up on the real side for lifetimes, because that was such an impact to them, and many other things like that. They don't know where they're at. They are dealing with the effect, and from that they will create other effects until at some point they have some recognition that they can start to see and get through that. It's a hellish nightmare, and we're all going through a nightmare here right now because of all the Wi-Fi, subliminals, the HARP, etc., and it's only going to get worse with the 5G, etc. So yeah, get ready. So I suggest to really focus, and you will have these experiences, but at the same time you still have this personal self and these 5 bodies to deal with. Always got to do that to get through all of this. So yeah, it doesn't stop. It's indiscriminate. It's just automatic. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's necessary to spark an activity for you to decide to recognize more than just the effects you're going through. You see?
Okay, thank you. And that would extend to include Manchurian candidates, I would guess as well. You know, the brain-controlled assassins. It would have been their karma to have ended up in that position, and they have to also live out the effects of the cause and effects of their assassinations that they do, and also the ones that had created the assassins as well. They would also be subjected to the karma too.
Well, here's the idea, Kevin, and that is that just like right now, just this moment right now, just be now, and that is that you have things that, let's say you're going to do things today. Well, you can go do them, or you can decide not to. You see? So this is how it is. This is how life sees us. We're here. It's in a way, it doesn't matter what we've done. This is just the action and cause and effect. Okay, so everybody has to go through it. Good, bad, or indifferent, killed, being killed, whatever. Okay, so we go through all that. And it doesn't matter if you kill people for lifetimes. If you come to that certain point where you want to wake up, which is right now, you decide, you know what? And let's say you're a hired assassin, etc. And you know that, let's say you've read the Akashic records, and you know these people that you're after, hey, it's their karma, and you're to, it's okay for you to kill them because it's their karma. Let's just say it's that. But you have the choice right now to not do that, you see? And all of a sudden decide to, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to put this gun down and all these ideas. And you know what? I'm going to sing the new you and share the new presentation. You see, it's always choice every moment, isn't it? It's not about karma, because karma is nothing. You see, it's only something as the activity of it is created. But once the individual decides to cease that and surpass it altogether, then it doesn't exist realistically. You see? It's very interesting how the isness life is. And it is always now, and it always is. So it's always a new moment to decide. But if you keep going along with the ideas, oh, this is their karma or this is my karma, then that's what it is. You see? And this is where some of these spiritual paths are bent on this. And, the yogas have some idea. It's like, well, every 7th life you get a rest because you've earned your good karma and whatever. So, again, when you specifically follow the karma idea, then you're a slave to cause and effect. And that's not the idea. The idea is just to get through it as soon as you can. If it takes 1 million lifetimes, it's better than 2 million lifetimes. Just get through it and then just become aware and stand real with the real guides. But that's your free will to decide that any moment. But again, the personal self is there thinking in certain ways, and the real awareness, trying to impress the personal self, because it created the personal self, but it's a toughie. It's kind of like one of those mechanical toys where you turn it off, but then you hit the off button, but it doesn't go off. It just keeps going, kind of like one of those lawnmowers that you can have one, you can have the little clicker and it's wireless and it's mowing the lawn real nice, and then you want to shut it off, but it doesn't shut off, and it starts going down the street and mowing everybody or chasing people or whatever, you see. That's kind of like the personal self. But you, the real you, can decide at any moment to decide differently, you see? So you don't have to be at the mercy and the effect of karma anymore. This is what's so cool about it. When you recognize the isness life is, and then you can have everything, okay? And then what's really neat is you don't need anything. You can surpass it all. But that does take a few minutes to get through. So you are the decider every single moment. And so again, yes, we've come up through these ideas. I have too. But I figured it out, and that is that I don't have to agree to any of this. I don't have to agree to karma or whatever. I can decide to focus on the is, and I don't need to be the effect of these ideas that I've come to know because they were just part of the process. That was it. And they're just in time and space. And what does that mean? You see, so I'd rather create something that focuses on the true reality that's a benefit for everybody, you see, and I'm included, that has no effect, you see, and the boys take care of that, and life takes care of that because now it backs you, life backs you, where these other ideas that people have out there, their religions, their spiritual paths, their politics, those are personal things of control, so they got to deal with it, and yeah, they have cause and effect, but you just simply stand aside from it. You don't have to deal with karma anymore. As you recognize it and you have the intent with the is, then things are taken care of accordingly because you're not interested. You become harmless, you see, and especially to yourself.
Okay, thank you very much, Duane.
That was great, kids. Thank you. Have fun. We'll see you next time. Yes, write some of those down, Kevin. Make movies. You're doing great. Thank you so much, and your family for sharing. A lot of fun. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. See you all next week, everybody.